Local Justice, presented by Elrod Pope Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, Attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome to Local Justice. I'm Attorney Ben Leader with the Elrod Pope Law Firm, and today's guest is someone for whom me personally has always represented what it looks like to build something meaningful right here in Rock Hill. Attorney Chad Echols is a Rock Hill native, a Clemson University graduate, and a former law clerk like myself to the late Judge John C. Hayes III, an experience that helped shape his foundation in the law. He's now the managing partner of the Frost-Echols Law Firm, a national law firm that he built from the ground up after running his own practice for more than a decade here in York County. Chad is also the son of longtime Rock Hill Mayor Doug Echols, and he is someone who continues to invest back into this community, including the recent transformation of Cotton Factory HQ, one of Rock Hill's most historic properties. Chad, it's a pleasure to have you on Local Justice.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, appreciate your time, and I want to start out by telling the viewers just a little bit about yourself. I know you're a Rock Hill native. Tell us kind of how, what your childhood was like, where you went to school, and what ultimately led you towards the path of law.
Sure. We got here, the family got here in 1970. Dad was hired as the first athletic director and head football coach at Northwestern High School when Northwestern was created, and then 5 years later, I was born on a football Friday night, and he went to coach at District 3, and they announced that I had been born that day, and I still have people in Rock Hill who occasionally will say, I was at the Northwestern football game the night you were born. So we've been here ever since. I grew up, went to Northwestern, then went on to Clemson, went to South Carolina for law school. So I have certainly spent, other than my education, my entire life living right here near downtown, and love it, love everything about it.
Well, that's great, and I got to touch on the Clemson connection first, because I've known you're a big Tiger and your blood runs orange and has for a long time. Growing up, I always looked up to you as you were going into college, and your Clemson experience, I think, helped tell me that might be something I wanted to explore myself. Tell us a little bit about what Clemson meant to you and your time there.
It was great. I mean, it's interesting. You never know where life's going to lead you. My actual undergraduate degree is in forest resource management. I told my parents that I was never going to work behind a desk, and now I work behind a desk. But it was a wonderful time. I lived with the guys that are still my best friends today. My younger sister went to Clemson. My wife grew up in Clemson. Her father was a longtime minister at Fort Hill Presbyterian Church there in downtown, and both her brothers played football there. So once we were involved, we have been Tigers through and through, and attended all 4 national championships. So it's a special place. I still love going over there, and we get back with some regularity, and still have a lot of friends over that way. So it's a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, I tell a lot of people, I think 2 of the best decisions I made was marrying my wife and choosing to go to Clemson. I think both of those put me on the right path on a lot of ways.
I fit in that exact category. So.
Well, good. And so you went to law school down in Columbia at South Carolina after forest resource. Is that what you said your major was?
Yeah. It was an odd transition. I got out of Clemson, got a few job offers, and then really, and I know we may talk about this, but Dad's involvement with the city and in his time as mayor, I think it was more a draw towards the civic reality of practicing law, and the fact that being an attorney often gives you involvement in and access to kind of what's going on in a community that drew me more towards the practice of law than, say, your father. Your dad's a longtime litigator and important part of the Rock Hill legal community. I think mine was more the civic aspect of it, but that's what led me to take the LSAT. And then when I was able to get in, I was excited and enjoyed my time in Columbia as well.
Well, that's great. And I know I have to touch on your dad. Time as mayor also happened to be probably at the kind of peak of your childhood growing up in Rock Hill.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because he had sort of 2 stints. When I was a young person in the 80s is when he ran and was actually played a key role in voting for Cherry Park, and because of the extensive nature of that construction, he actually lost a seat for taking that vote. And then wow. Betty J. Ray, who was mayor at the time, said that once the park was finished, everybody loved it, and her reelection went very well. So Dad did that stint, and then he went back on council actually when I went to Clemson, and then he became mayor when I was a senior at Clemson.
Okay.
So that 20 years of him being mayor was the period of time sort of since I was at Clemson and after that.
That's great. And after law school, I know you had a great opportunity to clerk with the late John C. Hayes, which is one of the finest people I've ever met in my life and one of the best years of my life. Tell us a little bit about your clerkship with Judge Hayes.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Judge Hayes was a special person. He was a thoughtful judge and a thoughtful lawyer. He treated every single person in the courtroom with the same level of respect, which I always thought was a great trait about him. It didn't matter if it was the bailiff or a fancy attorney from out of the state coming in, or anyone in between, or anybody, any citizen who happened to be participating in the system. He was just such a great guy and such a smart lawyer. I think one of the funniest stories from when I clerked for Judge Hayes was that there was a trial going on, and oddly enough, my mom was a character witness in the trial. And it was right after the Chief Justice had issued an order, because cell phones were just becoming ubiquitous. And you could get in trouble for your cell phone going off in court. And the only one that went off was my mom's. And so she handled it, but I was just incensed. I was sitting up there clerking for Judge Hayes. And so Mom walked out. Well, we had her come back into chambers after the whole thing because she was my mom. Well, then I had the sheriff and the bailiff come back and act like they were going to have to take her in because her phone had gone off. So, but that was a really early in your career, having people that can show you how it's supposed to be done, like Judge Hayes, is a meaningful part of, when I look back, a different experience could have, started my legal career differently, but being with Judge Hayes was an absolute pleasure, and he was a giant in this area for sure.
Couldn't agree more with all of that. And he also knew where the best barbecue spots were all
Midway
over South
Barbecue
Carolina.
down in Union,
That's
all
right.
those places,
That's
I guess.
right.
Buffalo, I guess, is exactly where
That's
Midway
right.
is.
I had to use the dry cleaners quite a bit.
Oh man, you're right. He always knew the best spots to eat, and again, just treated people. You'd go to these small, really great local spots, and he treated everybody the same. And I just, that's a lot of people don't do that, and
That's
it was
right.
a real watching him be that way around everybody was impressive to me.
Absolutely. Whether it was a defendant in a case or a juror or an attorney, he treated everybody with the same respect. And it's something I strive to be more like every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your upbringing and kind of what led you to the path of law. We're going to take a quick break from our station sponsors now. When we come back, we're going to talk a lot more about your law firm, what it is now, kind of the path to get here, and what you're doing now. So
Sure.
Thank you for tuning in to Local Justice. We'll be right back with more with Chad Echols here shortly. After a car accident, everything feels overwhelming. Your injuries, your job, the insurance companies contacting you before you even understand what happened. And you deserve someone who knows how to navigate these situations. A law firm who has handled thousands of injury cases across our region. Elrod Pope has been helping injured people for more than 45 years. If you have been hurt, call Elrod Pope. We will help you get back on your feet.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not going to have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm attorney Ben Leader with the Elrod Pope Law Firm, and today I'm honored to be joined by attorney Chad Echols of the Frost-Echols Law Firm, based out of here in Rock Hill. Chad, thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely.
Pleasure to have you on the show. I know you started your law practice originally here in Rock Hill. Tell us a little bit, after you finished your clerkship, I think you worked with Williams and Fudge directly first, is that right?
I did. I tell this story often because I'm very lucky that it happened. Judge Hayes, who we just talked about, I was clerk for Judge Hayes, and his wife asked if I would bartend a Boys and Girls Club event. And so I agreed to do that with Jay Thompson, my lifelong best friend, and we were bartending. And Gary Williams came up to me and said, "What are you doing after you finish clerking?" And I said, "Well, I've got some resumes out, but I'm not really sure." And he said, "Well, we'd like to hire a lawyer, so we'd like to talk to you about that." And I said, "Okay, that sounds good." And he went back to the table and he said, "I found our lawyer." And they said, "Well, who is it?" He said, "It's that guy." They said, "You're going to hire the bartender?" He said, "Well, he's a lawyer too." And so I met with Bob Perrin, who was the president at the time, and Gary, who was the CEO of Williams and Fudge, and they hired me as their in-house counsel because their company was growing really fast, and they just felt like it was a good time to have somebody from the legal community sort of overseeing all that. And quickly I realized that I needed more experience, and Gary always has been wonderful to me in my career, and when I said I think I need to go into a practice so that I can get more legal experience, and he said, "Absolutely, we'll be your client, go right ahead and we'll support you." And so I practiced with Hamilton Martins Blue for a while, and Herb Hamilton, another like your father, and somebody that a lot of people in the legal community here know and really respect, and I had a good run there. And then when I started growing the practice that I have now, that's when I opened the Echols firm and grew that, representing companies like Gary Williams and Williams and Fudge, and that practice has grown. And then a few years ago, about 3.5 years ago now, Mike Frost, who's my law partner, and I formed Frost-Echols, and Mike lives in Iowa, and so now we have 2 lawyers in Iowa. We have one in Ohio, one in Dallas, one in Minnesota, and the rest of the attorneys work out of our Rock Hill office, and some are licensed in North Carolina, some in South Carolina, and then we do a lot of work in federal court throughout the country.
That's a fantastic journey that you've taken, and I don't know that people realize how rare it is to go straight from a law school clerkship to in-house counsel at a company.
Well, and you're right. I mean, it's a little bit backwards in retrospect, because I think a lot of times you end up with a client that you do lots and lots of work for, and then they decide to just bring that lawyer in-house. I was just catching Williams and Fudge, and I'm so thankful at a real upswing in their growth, and Gary and his team had the believed, I guess, that I could be helpful, and I hope that I was, but I was early in my career, and so the journey. I mean, Williams & Fudge's growth and maturity as a company, they're about to have their 40th anniversary this summer. Sometimes you just happen to be right place, right time, and certainly being able to work with them for the balance of my entire career has been really special.
Yeah, I love that y'all's partnership has continued, despite the different paths of your journey, and I love that, he kind of took a shot at a local guy, right out of law school, and, chose to hire someone local for that role, and that may not have necessarily been the norm at that time. So,
going back to talking about Judge Hayes, and Gary certainly played a similar role for me. When I brought up the idea of going to private practice, I said I just feel like it's the best move for both the company and for me. And his response was, "I want you to be the best Chad Echols you can be, and we'll support you." And I've tried to manage people and deal with people that way because it meant so much to me to, it would have been easy for him to say no, that's not what we want, or it's not what I want, or I'm going to hire somebody else. And he stuck with me, and it's been probably the single most important relationship in my career.
That's really special, and it sounds like your journey from the Echols firm to Frost-Echols really has established the firm on more of a national scale, and I imagine that was one of the big reasons you explored that partnership, and it seemed like a good fit for you was to be able to really establish roots throughout the country.
It's what's interesting. There were so many difficult things around COVID. It was a difficult time for everybody. It certainly did change how we meet with each other and the ability to be remote and work together. And Mike and I have known each other for about 20 years through the collection industry and different relationships. And he was in-house with a really large company, a 1,000-person collection agency for a long time as their general counsel. And so he had sort of similar backgrounds, and we've been good friends. And so when we discussed the idea of partnering up, kind of post-COVID in the more remote world, it seemed easier than it might have before that. And it's really been a special relationship. He and I get along great. We're good friends, good business partners. We represent a group of clients that are all actually good friends with each other, and so there's a lot of fun built into the business side of all of this. But yeah, it's made our growth a lot more seamless, I guess, than I think it might have been early on.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I want to touch on maybe some of the misconceptions about what you do, because I think if you polled, 5 strangers in Rock Hill, they'd probably tell you Chad Echols does debt collection work for the Department of Education, maybe, or something along those lines. Tell us what you actually do.
Sure, it is a little, Williams Fudge, their primary or core business they've always had is the collection of student accounts that are owed directly to the college and university. So they work with a number of schools around the country, and they're one of our clients. And now we represent clients that collect student loans, medical debt, credit cards, purchase debt, but we don't collect the debt. A lot of people think we sue consumers because our clients are collection agencies, but what we do is we defend our collection agency and debt by our clients when consumer lawyers sue them pursuant to various consumer protection statutes. That's kind of one part of our practice. And the other part is we manage and work on the compliance and the regulatory aspects of those businesses. As you can imagine, if you collect consumer debt across the country, then things are different in New York than they are in California or Nevada or Massachusetts. So you have the state level regulatory structure, and then the federal Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Federal Trade Commission. And so we work with our clients through those various market sectors to keep them compliant, help them with regulatory issues, and defend them when they're sued. So it is a little bit different than I think what lots of folks who know Williams Fudge is a collection agency and that I work with them, they seem to have a misunderstanding of exactly what we do.
That's right.
So it's more of a defense practice than a plaintiff's practice.
You're not out suing the students to get paid the loans. You are actually advising these clients on proactive ways to prevent them being sued for doing things the wrong way.
And then when things crop up, we defend them. I mean, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act are the 3 primary statutes that govern, at least federally govern, debt collection, and there are various claims that crop up, and of course it's a big volume business. I mean, our clients are contacting millions of consumers a month. So within that, there's going to be issues that arise, and we defend them when those issues do arise.
That's great. Well, thank you for clarifying that and sharing a little bit about the firm. It sounds like y'all are on a great trajectory, and the partnership's been a great thing for the firm and really expanding your reach on a national scale. So happy for you and your growth. And want to take another quick break from our sponsors, and when we return, we'll talk a little bit about more your involvement in the community and some of the things you're passionate about.
Sure.
Thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another episode of Local Justice. We'll be right back with Chad Echols shortly. I wish everyone came with a warning label, because if you could predict a car accident, you would probably stay home that day. But accidents are never planned, and the moments after are confusing. You don't need a warning label. You need a law firm who knows how to handle this. A law firm who has helped people in South Carolina through injury cases for decades. If you've been hurt, call Elrod Pope. We'll help you understand your options and get moving in the right direction.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not going to have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
When a catastrophe hits, it can be a very stressful time for you. When you have trees on your house, when you have trees on your cars, and you don't know what to do, you call us.
We're not a 1-800 number, we're an 803 number. We've been in business for over 60 years because we take care of our clients. That means taking care of them during claim situations.
We're not 9 to 5, we're 24/7. We're gonna be there when you need us most. Gill Insurance, your local auto owner's agent. Understanding business is how we do business.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm attorney Ben Leader with the Elrod Pope Law Firm, and today I'm honored to be joined by attorney Chad Echols with the Frost-Echols Law Firm. Chad, thank you again for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
One of the things I've admired most about you as a lawyer a few years younger than you is, not just the legal work and the reputation you've built in the legal field, but also your involvement in the community. Whether it's Camp Cherokee, the YMCA, Clinton Junior College, Come See Me, good folks of York County consistently see you everywhere in the community and supporting a lot of great causes. And just want to hear a little bit from you. What does that community involvement mean to you, and do you think there may be a tie back to your dad's service that may have kind of fueled that fire for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both, for sure, both my parents. Obviously, Dad being the mayor is a higher profile position, but my mom's work with children through all, I mean, she's had such a career working, doing all things, advocating for young children, that both my parents have always been active citizens. They're not passive citizens. They don't sit on their couch and say, well, this should be better. They get involved where they believe they can make a difference and try to help make things better. And that certainly instilled in me that I think that's a better way of operating, especially in a community that has given so much to me and my family, and that I love being a part of. And I think about all the years I served in Come See Me and chairing Come See Me. I mean, it's an easy example of where this community just shines, and it's so much fun to work with friends that I've met through service, and to have longtime friends that are also involved in these things. Yeah, I almost, it's kind of strange to say, I almost don't know what you would do not getting involved. I mean, it would be hard for me to envision not some level of involvement in things that I find important to either my family or me, or certainly our community at large.
Well, and I think it's clear you do it for the right reasons too. I mean, your law firm has a great brand and a great reputation here, but your clients are not necessarily part of York County. They're probably all over the country and some larger cities, I would imagine. Is that fair?
Well, yeah, and I a lot like we've talked a fair amount about them, but I mean, I give Williams Fudge a lot of credit. Their higher education clients in town are York Tech, Clinton, and Williams and Winthrop. Sorry, and so they have those clients. Well, their philanthropy is large part because they love
everywhere.
Rock Hill,
Yeah.
and my work in the community. Obviously, we like to grow our client base, sure, but it really is more just about trying to play a role in being the type of place that people want to live, and they want to raise their children, and they want to be a part of.
And attracting a lot of good local employees too. I know y'all employ more people now than you probably ever have before, and two of your newer employees are Attorney Charlie Burnett and Attorney Bax Burnett. Tell us a little bit about that arrangement and how.
It's been great. We've talked a lot about this. I mean, I've been, in Rock Hill and focused on Rock Hill for a long time, but my practice developed in an odd way to where it really wasn't a York County centric practice. And so for a long time, I've really hoped to be more integrated in the local bar and have a local practice. And it worked out well. Charlie and I have run together at lunch for about 20 years. We go to the group with this group of us that run, every lots of times during the week. And he and I started talking, and it just seemed to make sense because the Burnetts have been longtime Rock Hill folks, and both Charlie and Bax have great careers as efficient and effective litigators. And so one way of kind of broadening the practice and hopefully accomplishing that task of getting more integrated was to work out a deal where they joined us over at Frost-Echols, and now we do more local civil litigation, construction law, contract issues, corporate formation. So we've broadened our work in this area and want to continue to do that. I mean, it'd be nice to offer a full plethora of professional services to Rock Hill.
Right. You don't have to say no as much when people call and ask, can you help with this or that? It's you got people in-house now that may be able to help.
Exactly, and I think one thing is my practice was so attached to Williams Fudge in people's minds here that I think some people just didn't call because they thought, well, that's not what I do. And now the firm hopefully is broadening that brand so that people will recognize, yes, that's something they do, and give us a call and we can help them out.
Well, a lot of exciting things going on at the firm. I know y'all have recently relocated to the Cotton Factory HQ. Super impressive facility there. Looks like a great setup for years to come. I know you're excited about that.
We are, yeah, just full circle. Dad, when he was mayor, worked with Gary Williams 20 years ago to get that building refurbished and really took a lot of leadership of Gary at the time to come downtown. It was a different downtown back then. That was a completely bricked up building. Now we're on the cusp of having a bunch of new tenants that we think will really create almost a vibrant campus feel around Cotton Factory HQ, and having Williams Fudge as an anchor tenant in the firm there, and some other, you'll be seeing, if you're paying attention online, you'll see the other tenants come online here soon. So between that and what's going on next door with the old Herald site and that development and everything down through the Sports and Event Center, it could not be a more exciting time to be a part of downtown Rock Hill.
That's absolutely right. It's great for Rock Hill, and super exciting to see that vision come to life. And so what a great place to be. And want to end on a final note. Normally I ask other attorneys to share, some advice for young lawyers or students that may be interested in the law. And I reminded you before the show, we actually had lunch. You reached out to me and took me to lunch my first month on the job here as an attorney. And you graciously offered some advice to me at that time. And that advice was that being a lawyer is really hard. You're going to make mistakes. And when you do, run to the fire, own the mistake, get help from your law partners. Don't try to fix it yourself. And that's something that I've lived by for the last 13 years. And I've shared that insight with our young attorneys and strongly encouraged them to do the same. So thank you for sharing that. I assume that would still be your advice to young lawyers out there today.
It certainly would. I think, I'm glad that stuck. And, it's amazing to sit here right now and how, coming a little bit younger than I am, how your career has just taken off, and having that similar experience of clerking for Judge Hayes, and then going to Clemson and all that. It's neat to, it's great to see your success, Elrod Pope's success. Obviously, folks may not know this, but our dads were extremely close friends and ran in the same group of guys. So, there's something about Rock Hill and York County that's really special, and you want to see other people succeed. Your friends, your people you work with, people you serve with. People generally here, I think, want other people to do well and to thrive, and so to be sitting here being interviewed by you all these years later, and to know how things are going for you guys, it's a pleasure.
Well, thank you for those kind words, and had a lot of good mentors along the way, you being one of them. So I appreciate all the work you do, and super excited for your firm and the growth y'all have had and the path you're on. So thank you for joining us for Local Justice, and thank you to the viewers out there for tuning in to another episode. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there, and thank you. So when a client first comes into our office, they're dealing with very painful injuries. They're trying to provide for their families at the same time. You can just see the sense of anxiety, the grief, the worry on their face as soon as they walk in the door. One of the first things we do is we try to alleviate that concern and take that weight off their shoulder and put it on our plate. We see people immediately leave here from the first consultation. I can already see a sense of relief because they know that they've got a team helping them now, and it's no longer just their problem.
Brown's Roofing began in 1989 with just a truck, a trailer, and a mission to do things the right way. What started as one man hand-nailing shingles has grown into a trusted name across South Carolina and North Carolina. At Brown's Roofing, we believe in honest work, fair pricing, and a quality that lasts. If we wouldn't allow it on our mother's home, we won't allow it on yours. With Brown's Roofing, you're not just getting a roof, you're getting our word.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Founders Federal Credit Union means banking made for you. The on the go, the pick up and go, and the oh, I want to go. Because at Founders, we give you the financial tools that make every dollar work for you. For the little things to the big things. For your future and your peace of mind. We'll always stay grounded in our roots, but reaching beyond what you'd expect is where we'll always go. Find out what our members already know and enjoy a new way to bank. Relax, you're with Founders.
Nesting season is here again, and overworked bird moms can always use a hand. There's plenty to do, from building a nest and laying eggs to raising their young ones. You can help the whole family by providing bird foods rich in calcium, protein, and fat, such as our Super Suets, Bark Butter Bits, or Nesting Super Blend. And provide a safe place to nest with one of our ready-to-use Eco-Tough nesting boxes. Shop Wild Birds Unlimited for everything you'll need to invite nesting birds to raise a family in your backyard.